Honorable Swart, take your case on,
Mr
please.
Minnaar. Dankie dat jy hier is. I want to ask a couple of questions and I'll put it to you in English. Firstly, you indicated on the 18th of April 2017 that there was an internal investigation to determine about the leak. Now that seems to have perturbed Eskom tremendously. But is it not correct that had the information not been in the public domain, Mr Molefe would have received the 30-odd million pension and no one would have been the wiser?
Chairperson, you're 100% correct. No, on the information being not in the public domain. But I think the person that was very perturbed about the leaking is myself, because it's a principal thing within the organization to keep some stuff internal and try and manage that accordingly. Now, I think it's important that information like this comes out, that the public knows about it, and that we can see that we really do something wrong or right. That's important, and you know my view around it. But a concerning thing for me is that Eskom, and now it's Anton speaking, that Eskom becomes a place that's been managed by media nearly, and that hasn't been the case. So we don't totally even know what's going on if you come into the office, what's happening, because we first read the newspapers and then add a joke and say, okay, this is what's happening to person A. So that is a concern for me.
Okay, but clearly a lot of this inquiry is based on media revelations that we would not have otherwise known. Was this at any time ever reported to the Portfolio Committee of Public Enterprises? No, it was only after it was divulged in the media. Is that not correct?
That is correct, unless the Minister has been discussed with this issue and would be aware of it.
Is it, in your view, morally defensible to pay a person 30 million after 18 months of work?
Chairperson, I think yes.
On what basis can it possibly morally defensible when the very issue in that Rule 28 speaks about 50 years plus 10 years of service, which was not achieved? And you yourself have said this was a unique situation. A unique situation. And can I just say to you, Ms. Venetia Klein, in her statement, says that under all, that she says in paragraph 80, that when it appeared that there had to be a 5-year contract as opposed to a permanent contract. Now, you've continually said it's a permanent contract, and that's your view, and the courts will decide on that. But it's very clear from the board's perspective, it was a 5-year contract. She says, we agreed that an arrangement could be put in place to ensure that he is not adversely affected in respect of his pension benefits. Now, it's very clear that there was some arrangement, and it was related to the 10-year service. Then Eskom and yourselves came together and said, we're going to pay to the fund, we're going to pay not only the penalties, but also towards the 10-year issue. And that, to me, is totally morally indefensible, because that's why the 10-year provision was there. Do you not agree?
Chairperson, I 100% agree, but just remember...
Sorry, so you agree that it's morally indefensible?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I agree on the issue about the 5-year term contract to look at the pension issues. I disagree with the interpretation of the 50 years, the Rule 28, because we were advised by the pension fund that it can be done. That was what Eskom think out. That was clear from the pension fund that it can be done.
But you see, she also says in paragraph 82 of her statement, it was at all times my understanding and what I understood as the intention of the board that Mr Molefe would only qualify for this benefit after serving an initial 5-year period and not the 18-month period. So the board resolution, the understanding was that after a 5-year period, there could be some qualifications there could be of this, and not after 18 months. And so I'm sure the whole board must have been shocked. And that's why you tried to cover up this leak, because after 18 months, the public knows about it, and it's outrageous. Is that not so?
Chairperson, I disagree with covering up the leak. I've expressed my view why I say I think it's important that information doesn't leak. But the big thing is, I do agree that I think the intent was to sit a 5-year period out. But yet the information was provided through to the board. The resolution didn't state that it must be done after 5 years. The resolution merely states that Eskom will buy the additional year's service.
Why do you think that there was this this sense of trying to help Mr Molefe and Mr Anuj Singh? And yes, we appreciate, according to the evidence that we've heard, that they added a lot to Eskom. But we're also aware that there was a very clear, and this can be contested, but there's a very clear link to Mr Salim Issa, to the Guptas. Is that not also a reason why there was this keenness to assist with this earlier, that had never been done before? You admit it had never been done before.
Chairperson, I cannot get involved in any of the links with Mr Molefe. What I do want to mention, I cannot judge him as well, was he was one of the better executives we brought in a long time. I judge him merely from a performance point of view.
I appreciate that, but you agree that this had never been done before?
I agree with you.
And
also never had a 5-year term contract as well, Chair.
Well, you see, that's where that's the dispute now, whether it's a permanent contract or a 5-year contract. And so this, and it's also interesting that on the 12th of March, Ms. Daniels had a meeting with various members where she indicates, and we're going to hear Deputy Minister Martins, you've heard that in the media, Mr. Salim Issa, Mr. Gupta, and the whole issue of the Molefe, and this was now June, July this year. The whole issue of his court case relating to his pension was discussed. Now, would you not agree that that would give credence to the fact that there was a sympathetic attitude towards Mr. Molefe, considering, and again, as I say, people are entitled to come and dispute it, but we've got nothing to doubt why Ms. Daniels doubt her word as to having that meeting to discuss Mr. Molefe's particular pension fund case. Doesn't it seem strange to you that this whole issue would reach that level?
Yeah, I don't know if it was discussed at a level, but as you mentioned, there was evidence around it. But yeah, I cannot make an opinion around that, Chair.
But if you consider the weight of the evidence now of a unique situation relating to this pension, a massive pension that's paid out, or would have been paid out had it not got into the public domain, plus now a great interest in the litigation from the Gupta family, from Mr. Salim Issa, and we know now, if you look in the broader context, and the board's going to respond to that, about the Tegeta contracts, we know all that. Does it not create an impression, if you consider that, of a person receiving beneficial treatment?
Chairperson, I don't want to be naive, but I can't be led into that. It would be an opinion of mine. I think the key thing for Mr. Molefe that pushed us around these resolutions, or the board making those things, was the thing that we were entering into this term agreement, which was a first for us, and obviously they're looking at options on how to address shortfalls in it.
But you see, Mr. Molefe had short-term contracts prior. This is not a new thing to him. So why should it be to you such a great interest that he should have pension benefits of this amount?
Because he had it at the previous companies, Chair.
He had short-term contracts at his previous contracts.
But he participated in a pension fund, the Transnet as well, Chair.
One of the meetings on the 9th of February 2016 with the P&G committee, you explained to the P&G committee that as a result of Mr. Molefe's short-term contracts in numerous public entities in which had served at executive level, Mr. Molefe had been deprived of the opportunity to grow a pension fund in a single fund. So that obviously means you did try to assist him and tried a sympathetic way to find a way out. Would you not agree with that?
I disagree with the Chair. I don't think I tried to assist the individual. We're looking at clear practices and see where individuals have got a shortfall or not. It is, I don't know if you want me to...
No, I'm just saying the tenure. Just focus on the tenure. Surely that was a massive sympathetic approach once you understood that you would have to, that there wouldn't be a 10-year contract, and that would be the normal thing. 50 years plus 10 years minimum. Is that not so?
That is, before the pension fund said we can buy the additional service. That's correct.
But that, and you've never done that before?
We've never done that before. As I said, as we have never term contracts as well before.
Okay, thank you, Chair.